Okay, finances and fundraising. Now, I'm not sure any longer how realistic all of these ideas are. There was a time when they were realistic, but there are just lots of unknowns now. There are lots of things we just simply don't know. Donations, bequests, and contributions, you should be asking for those all the time. You should be asking your family to not just pay the fees, but particularly the family members. Oftentimes the family members who can best afford it are the ones who least give it. Too bad. That's the way all families are. On the other hand, as I said earlier, I'm not above shame and guilt. And maybe sometimes you have to offer them something to put their money into, you know. I know of a number of families where nobody pays for the banquet, and oftentimes the banquet sponsor is anonymous. In fact, one family reunion, it was always the anonymous banquet sponsor. And then a very important member of the family died, and that's the person I had always thought was the person who sponsored the banquet. Only they still have an anonymous banquet sponsor, and so either that person left the resources to do that, or I was terribly wrong. I think it's number 2. But if you can, you know, if you have family members who can underwrite a part of the reunion, an activity, or a scholarship, or something like that, impose upon them. Because again, oftentimes people say, well, no one asked. You have to be really creative about who you ask to do what, more so now than ever before. Dues, fees, and admissions, I suspect probably most of you have something like that. That's a very hard thing to pull together. But it all comes as you do your planning to figure out what everything is going to cost. And everybody has to share in the cost of the reunion. I realize that many of you will end up putting a lot more of your own money into this than anybody else in the family. But that's certainly part of your commitment in doing this, and certainly, you know, we're all going to be remembered in heaven for that. That I can promise. But this is, again, I don't have any magic bullets about how to do this. You have to figure these things out for yourself. And these aren't the easy things. These are the hard things. But pat yourself on the back when you get it done. Auctions and raffles. This is something that has to be planned well in advance of the reunion. If you're going to have an auction, you have to collect things for the auction. And the best way to do that is to have family members donate things. If it's a white elephant, for example, and your family has a really silly streak, invite them to bring the thing that they want least in their house and wrap it in a pretty package with a pretty bow and make it look like something wonderful and start auctioning those things off. People don't know what they're getting until they open it up, and that's half the fun. With white elephants, what you have to do then is have a trading cycle. So, you know, people, something that, you know, the treasure and trash thing. It's a treasure to you, but it looks like trash to somebody else. So, the same thing with raffles. You have to collect whatever you're going to raffle ahead of time. You have to set it up. You have to have all the, you know, the little parts together. But raffles and auctions do really raise quite a bit of money. When you're doing the auction, frequently you have to sort of poke people to bid up. Because you're not, for the auction, for a reunion, you shouldn't be looking to get a bargain. You should be looking to make as much money off of that as you possibly can. Now let me give you an example. The same family I was talking about earlier who has the barn. They have, it's a German family, and they have a Kuchen contest. Kuchen in German is cake. And everybody is invited to bring cakes. And I have been a judge. And while this may sound like a great fun thing to be a judge for, it isn't that much fun, I have to admit. They take one slice out of every cake. So that when we're finished, of course, every cake is missing a slice, all right? And the judges have each taken a little fork full of all of these. And you know, they do regular judging, and they award the best cake and the second best and so forth. But then they have an auction for all these cakes that have a piece missing. And what has happened over the years is that the husbands of the cake maker, most of the cakes are made by women, The husbands know ahead of time that they better have some cash in their pocket because they pay about $100 for those cakes. Now what they've begun to do is when they, you get the cake and I bring the cake over to you, they also bring a stack of paper plates and plastic forks so that before long the cake is gone. It isn't a cake that they expect to take home. But it is a way that they get to, and people expect it. This is expected now. The first time you do it, people may say, $100 for a cake. Well, it isn't, it isn't the point of the cake itself. It's the point of getting the $100 into the reunion treasury. Families are doing auctions and raffles for a variety of reasons. One, to have some money to start the next reunion. Two, to cover some of the expenses of this reunion. Some reunions use the income to help people on fixed incomes to get to the reunion. And many family reunions provide scholarships for family members. In Wisconsin, for those of you here from Wisconsin, we have some very stiff rules about what you auction and what you raffle, because I have talked with the, whatever the guy is who's in charge of all that stuff at the state level, and he says that it's against the law to do that anywhere. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to start auctioning stuff where you say to your friend at work, gee, we're auctioning this, can I try to buy it for you? Don't let it out of the family. Make these parochial kinds of activities. I don't know about other states, but in Wisconsin, they don't like it. Now, why would I go telling them anyway? Okay, actually, I have to admit, the reason I called them in the first place was there was a reunion in North Carolina where they actually got a Honda dealer to give them an Accord at cost, and they raffled it. But they sent raffle tickets all over the country. And between you and me, that didn't sound, that didn't live up to what I consider raffle laws. And that's how I got into that in the first place. Now, the guy who was doing it claimed that he did the same thing and went to his state raffle or auction or, gambling office, and they said it was okay. And that may be true. But, there are a lot of states where it's not true, so you have to think that one through. Just keep these kinds of fundraising things inside your family, and you should have no problems at all. And don't get scared with what I just said, that was silly. Now, corporate underwriting was something that years and years ago, if you were really lucky, you could get to have happen at your reunion. I don't think it happens anymore. But if you really want to give it a try, here's what you do. You designate the best writer in your family, the person who can write the best letter, have the best reasons, and find the best people to send it to. And the people in corporate offices you would send it to, as most corporations have some kind of a service office, a community service office, or something like that. You should probably start with companies that your family is related to, members of your family who work for those companies. Years ago that was auto companies. I don't think that is as much anymore. And in the letter you would say, well, our family depends on you and we were hoping that you might support us. You have to build the case for why a company would want to give up even a penny for your reunion. And that's why if you have any relationship to the company, it's a good idea to say, Joe Blow works for your company and has for 35 years, and we think this would be a really nice way for you to honor him. I know several people who have made this magic work, but not that many people. And if it were me, and I'm a good letter writer, I probably wouldn't spend a lot of time on it, because it just, in this day and age, it isn't going to work much. But it's still there. It just isn't going to happen. But, when things pick up, it could. It could also be if you're approaching a consumer products company, you would say that everyone in my family uses Dove soap, okay? Or something like that. But you also, other than just cash, which you rarely get, you might get product. And you could get product for, door prizes or goodie bags or, those kinds of things. And that is still reasonable. It's still reasonable to be able to possibly get some of those kinds of things, okay?